Good morning, everybody. Thursday morning was supposed to be my Cardinals opening day, but of course it's starting to rain outside, so they pushed that back to Friday, and we have one less game to worry about this afternoon. However, we do have a few on the early, and we have a few on the main. I'm going to cover the earlies today, and then I'm going to cover the main in a written article form. The earlies we'll do in a video form because I have a couple of things that I want to show you. Number one, a couple of good calls last night. When I scroll down here, not to brag too hard because I play pretty small dollar stuff, but I just wanted to show you. I mean, I win too. It's just one of those things in the Army. You're going to go through, if you followed me over the past few days, I haven't gotten off to a very good start in MLB yet, but won a couple of them last night, repaired all of the damage from early in the season already. There is a Army hat down in the same tournament with me. So the Army hats are always on the leaderboards. That's just the way that it goes inside DFSArmy.com. If you're new to me, thanks for tuning in. I am Choppadong. You can find me out on Twitter at Choppadong. You can always find me inside DFSArmy.com at Choppadong in the coaching forums, always talking baseball, hockey, football, basketball, most of the main sports, a little bit of PGA, MMA, whatever it is. We've got it covered. I've even been playing NASCAR this year, so we've got it covered from A to Z, front to back. And you are going to want to become a member by joining DFSArmy.com. Click the link down there in the comment section, use coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P, and trigger the content, tools, and coaching that are going to make you a better player. Our job is to teach you to get better. That's what we do. And I'm always talking day in and day out inside our coaching forums trying to make people better. One of the things that I've been focused on teaching people lately, and I'll dive in really, really quick, is the contest selection. What type of contest are you building right now? And does it suit your game? A lot of what I've done, I don't play cash only anymore. I used to play a lot of cash only because back in the day, you used to be able to put together a generally safe lineup and then just let all of your opponents shoot themselves in the feet. And their money would just fall out of their pockets and into yours. But the games have gotten smarter, the games have gotten tougher, the competition's gotten better. So we have to start taking a little bit of risk to get past the people that have the fundamentals down. Well, when you take risk, you're going to open yourself up to volatility, which is higher highs and lower lows. And now you're not hitting that steady Eddie cash game stuff, those 50-50s, 60-65% of the time anymore. You're hitting them more like 55%, half the time. And then the house take or the rake takes all of your money, and it's a slow slip down the hill into Brokesville. And we need to counteract that. So we devised a ladder strategy, which layers different contests with different upside on there. You can search DFS Army ladder. I like the ladder up article. You would search DFS Army ladder up. And out there on Google, you'll pull up the videos, and those are going to guide you through the basic premise of the ladder strategy. But you're always going to want some upside in there with your contest. Lately, I've been discovering that multi-entry GPPs are safe just like cash. If I entered, say, 100 head-to-heads, and I'm not going to lose all 100 of them, right? So I'm going to at least get some of the money back. That's the appeal to cash gamers, is I'm going to win frequently. I'm going to, never take a complete bath and lose almost everything. Most of the time I'm going to lose a little or win a little. Some nights I'll win a lot, some nights I'll lose a lot, but hopefully the winning outweighs the losing. That's the cash game head-to-head 50-50 type mentality that I grew up on, but I'm finding that it exists in GPPs, because if I can put in 5, 8, 10, 20, 50 lineups into these contests, the more lineups I build, the more I can spread out and cover more bases. I don't just have to focus on Houston stacks like last night, or just focus on a Houston-Toronto stack and get disappointed night in and night out. If I'm only putting 1 to 2 lineups together, I'm going to go through 10 days, 20 days of crap, and that's going to be very discouraging. Whereas if I put in 20 lineups tonight, I can cover a lot of different bases, have something go off, win a little bit of money, and feel better about myself in the morning, realizing that I didn't lose everything. I must be on a good path. I must be on a more or less the correct track, because my offenses didn't all go off tonight. So what? Most of them, kind of did, and then some of them did, and I didn't have the right players. But in other lineups, I did have the right players because I varied my stacks a little bit. That type of mentality of covering more bases is what is allowing the multi-entry tournaments to become more like cash games. The trick, though, is in head-to-heads. If I had 100 or 1,000 head-to-heads run out there, and I sweep them all, I built a lineup that beat 999 out of 1,000 people. Well, that lineup should have been in a GPP because it was a stellar lineup. And in a head-to-head type competition. It only got me double my money, if even that, minus the house rake. To me, taking that kind of risk to beat 999 people isn't worth double my money. It's worth more than that because it's not going to happen very often. So I need to shift my focus of my tournament play and put them into tournaments that are actually going to pay. If I'm going to take the risk, I need to get the reward, and the reward is the upside. So that's what these small quarter contests, these dollar mini maxes and things are allowing us to do, which is put 5, 6, 7, 10, 20, 30 lineups into these competitions and then have the we instead of beating just half the people, we've got to beat 80% of the people, but you're going to do that a few times and you're going to always have upside towards the big prizes. So how do we structure those? I want to put the majority of the lineups in that I can. I don't want to just put in 20 lineups out of 10,000 people because that's not significantly more than just putting in one lineup. I want to try to control at least 1% of the total player pool. A lot like the 100-man leagues that you hear me talk about. I love those contests, but these others are guaranteed to play whether they fill or not. So the 100-man contests are great. You get to control in a 3-max 100-man league, you get to control 3% of the total lineups in that contest by putting in 3 yourself. That gives you an advantage over the people that are only putting in 1 or whatever, because you've got 3% as opposed to 1%. You've got triple the advantage they do. But 1% to 3% actually becomes a little bit significant, whereas say 0.02% and 0.06% isn't really all that significant because there's still a ton of other crap out there that you have to beat. So, and if this is all leaving you in the dust, I apologize. You're just going to have to pay attention to me. I'm going to preach about it for a while until it becomes routine, and I'm going to find different ways to say the same thing. And I know I'm rambling even now, but it's very important that you put your money in the right contest. And I'll show you a couple what I'm looking for. But I'm trying to control 1% at least of the overall player pool. I want to control 3% if I can, and I want to have the 1% mark that would beat a 100-man league. If you build a lineup that beats 99 out of 100 people, it's in the top 1% of the world, and it wins a 100-man league, or at least it has a very good shot at winning 100. You may run up against somebody who had a little better score than you, and that's just the breaks. But generally speaking, it has a chance to win those 100-man leagues and pay $25 on the dollar. That's important too, because I want that ratio. Now, I know that if I'm going to play in a contest that rewards more than 25x at the top end, I'm actually going to have, the 1% barrier be lower, like 10x or 8x or whatever. I want it to be as close to 10x as I can. However, I know that the upside getting past that on the nights that I do build monster lineups is going to unlock more and more money. My goal in all of DFS is to teach you how to build top 1% lineups. Not top 50%, not top 20%, top 1%. Min cashing doesn't do you that much good. It helps keep you afloat. Doesn't do you very good. I want to make sure that my lineups are at least in the top half of the world because they would have won cash games. Then I want to make sure they were in the top 20%, which means they would min cash GPPs at least. And then I want to get them into the top 1%, because to get to the top 1%, I've discovered over several years of this, you don't have to build super risky, super crazy lineups. You can build very fundamentally sound, kind of chalky lineups and have great chances. You stack a little, you don't really worry much about ownership. You might take a shot on a Jose Abreu last year or an Adam Frazier last night. Those types of situations do play in, but mostly you're stacking Boston or you're stacking Houston or whatever, and that's going to still get you there. If you're trying to win a 20,000 person event, you're going to have the really crazy crap that goes off that just gets lucky, and I don't like playing that way. I don't like playing with lightning bolts and blindfolded dart throws. I like playing with fundamentally sound stuff that should happen or that has a great chance of happening, and I keep myself in smaller contests in order to do so. Now, we talked about the 100-man leagues. They pay the top 12, and then they pay 25x on the dollar. So if we can get that 1% as close to 25x as we can find, then we're doing well. What are some of the other competitions? I've shown you the quarters stuff before, and I'll show you really quickly. 33,000 people in court. You ain't winning that thing, okay? But if I show you the prize pool, we can do some quick math, and I can show you $700 of the 7,000, so 10% goes to top place. The 1% lineup would be 335th, which is in this glut of people here, which is 8x, which is pretty good. But by putting 150 lineups into 33,500, that's the challenge. I'm not going to have control over that contest. By putting 150 lineups into 33,500, roughly, I've only got a 0.4% ownership of the player pool. That's not a lot. That's not significant for 150 lineups. That means that somebody putting in 20 lineups has just as good a chance as me. Somebody putting in 5 lineups has just a good chance as me. So for those of you that don't have the bankroll to put 37 bucks a day into these things, you actually have a shot at this tournament if you want to go play it. The problem is you get way into the top 1%. You've still got 330 people to beat, and you've only got eight quarters back for your quarter. So the payoff isn't great. It's okay. It's pretty good for these, but you're really gunning for this money up here. This is what unlocks the big money. Top 4, top 5 out of 33,000. Good luck hitting that. That's lucky. If you did that, you put together a great lineup, but you really got lucky along the way too. And that's what it takes. But I can get less lucky and win more money in smaller contests. Let's scroll down here to the mini sack fly. $250, 25 to first place. 69 people pay on the bottom end, which is actually a pretty good number. 69 out of 297. 69 divided by 297 is 23% as opposed to the normal 19, 20, maybe even 21%. That little 2% matters. Third place, 10 on the dollar, so 10x, not 8x, but 10x. That's pretty good, and I can beat 300 people a lot more often than I can beat 33,000 people. But on top of that, with the 297 people, I get 8 lineups. So if I get 8 lineups divided by 297, I've got 2.6 or 2.7% of the player pool controlled by me. That gives me a significant edge over somebody putting in 1 or 2 lineups. So I have a skill advantage here as an experienced player, quote unquote shark, whatever you want to call it. I have a skill advantage here that I don't have in the quarter contest. So I would rather build 8 strong lineups here than 150 quarter lineups there. The ROI is not as great, but I'm going to win this more often. Okay, so this is why I like these types of smaller contests. I'm hopefully clicking the light bulb on for you. This one's just a single entry, pays 30 bucks to first place, but you've got just as much advantage as everybody else. So again, beginners, get in these. That shark advantage is negated in a single entry type of tournament. You have just as much chance as he does. Take advantage of those situations. Scroll down a little bit because I found a couple of these contests last night that really got me excited. 1,600 people, $2.22. 10 lineups. That's not much. 10 lineups out of 1608. 10 lineups out of 1608 is only 0.6%. So whether I put in 3 lineups or 10 lineups, the advantage isn't great. But what I do like out of this competition here, it's 375 of the 1,600 pay. So 375 divided by 1608, 23% pay. That's a good number. Anything approaching 25% is a pretty good number. And the 1% is 16th place. So 15 on the dollar, 15 on the $2, 7.5x. So that's not the 8x that we were looking at, certainly not the 10x, but it's still kind of okay. Given the fact that you've only got another 15 people to beat to unlock the big booty. That's what you're after. I don't have to beat another 300 some odd people. I only have to beat 15 more people, and I get the top prize of 300 bucks. Turning $2 into 300 bucks is 150x. 150x would have to get you into, I don't know what levels of those other GPPs, but you'd have to beat 20, 30,000 people to even think about it, and that's just not going to happen as often as you're going to beat 1,600 people. You want to know where the guys that have all of the money got their money back in the day? It's because these were big GPPs for the beginning of DFS. This is where people were winning. This is where people were making their money. They were building those big bankrolls. So if it wasn't too good for them, why is it too good for us? Why are we out there chasing all these silly competitions with these giant prizes trying to get it all in one day? Don't get it all in one day. Build it up over time. Build your skill. Build your advantage. This is the type of coaching you get and the type of reminders and the type of fundamentals that get beat into your brains inside DFSArmy.com. That's why you've got to click that link and get your butts in here. We can make you better players, for crying out loud. Another competition that I saw, this $3, 110 man, $3 multi, well, here's a $3 multi, look at this, we got 2 of them. Oh, that's a beginner contest. So the 198 man, $3. 100 bucks to first place. On $3, that's 33x, 34x, whatever. So it's better than a 100-man league. You've only got to beat 200 people to do it. You get 5 shots at it. 5 shots in 200 lineups, 5 divided by 200 is 2.5%, so almost 3%. That's pretty good. And second place is your 1% barrier, and that pays you 20x. Not 10x, 20x. Yes, it's top heavy, but you only have 200 people to beat. 39 out of 198. 39 divided by 198. I just look at the same factors over and over and over again. Okay, so it's not 23%, it's under 20%. So that's not great. It's a little bit more top heavy. It's a little bit more like those 100-man leagues. This is maybe the old 200-man league structure, although the 200-man leagues used to pay $50. But the 200-man league type structure, these were my bread and butter back in the very, very beginning. They got rid of them. But if they're going to bring them back, I will let you. I would even step my game up to play these $3 ones at 5. That's $15 a day. That's half of what I'd be putting in if I maxed out quarters at 150 lineups. And over 5 lineups, I can probably build something pretty good. Now, it's going to take me a little bit longer to, my losing streaks are going to last a little bit longer. They might last a couple of weeks as opposed to a couple of days because I'm not putting in the number of lineups that I was putting in. But they're definitely going to help build my bankroll over time. And that is the point. Safe ways to grind up a bankroll, to constantly be giving yourself a shot. And if you are a shark type player, then you probably want to be in those that allow you to control the majority of the entries in the tournament, or not the majority, but at least as many as you can, closer to 3%. But if you are not a shark and you're just dabbling in baseball, you want to stay out of those contests and get in the ones where the sharks don't get a 3% edge on you. Instead, they get under a 1% edge on you because then you can compete with them. You can have a good lucky. I can go out and play Jordan Spieth in golf. And, if Jordan Spieth and I had a 50-foot putt, I've used this analogy before, he's going to get it close to the hole a lot more often than I am. But on any given putt, I can make mine and he can miss his. Single entry versus, see if we had 100 shots at it, that's like 100 entries into a GPP. He's going to win more money than I am. He's better than I am. However, on one single shot, I might be better than him. That's how that works. That's the same principle that applies to these tournaments. Let's move on. Let's talk today's early stuff. First thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the Vegas odds. We're going to actually need to look at, those are all scattered up. We're going to need to look at the slate. The early only slate. Find the games on it. Washington, New York, Kansas City, Detroit, Baltimore. So I'm looking at the 1 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 3:30. Those are the numbers that I'm looking for because when I go into my research station, I'm going to do the 1 o'clock. I'm going to set it up everywhere. You're looking at the slate just like the sunrise, just like me. I haven't seen this thing at all. 1, 1, 3, and 3:30. Boom. So that one is set up. I'll go to my pitching tab. I'm going to do the exact same thing. I want to make sure that I'm only looking at the morning games or the early games. So I'll let that one throw me some pitchers, and then I'll add the other two. And then my favorite tab, I don't even know why I did the batters tab. I don't even look at the batters tab all that much. I look at the trends tab. And this you can't get anywhere else. This is a DFS Army only tool. And I swear to you, it's the best one we got. You can look at our starting lineups page and get ex-Woba numbers and things like that. And those are pretty cool too. But these are the numbers I know how to use. And these are why I had a good night last night. So we're going to find pitchers. We're going to find batters and stacks. That's what we're going to do. But first, we need to look at some of the Vegas odds because we need to see, of those early games, 1 o'clock, Mets have the advantage over Washington, theoretically. 4:15 might be 3:15 my time. San Diego, St. Louis, nope, that game's canceled anyway. 7-7-7-1. Detroit, Kansas City, even odds, low total. The O here, if you don't know what that means, the U and the O, if you're looking at this number, 8 under minus 10, what that means is the game total is set at an 8. The Vegas is leaning on the under, and it's minus 110 odds on the under, meaning the money line, like a minus 180 is better than a minus 110. This is just the last 2 digits. It's a 10. That's a minus 120. That's a minus 115. So as you're looking through it, you'll see stronger. Usually you won't see more than about a 25 or a 30, and then the line will move. This would go on the 8U20. If it gets to 25 or 30, this 8U will go to like a 7.5O or a 7.5U, kind of like this, okay? So that's what you're looking for. But what you want to find is the bigger favorites for your pitchers. Nothing out on this one yet. 305. There's a 190 for the Yankees. Game leaning on the over. I would write these down. There's the 337 game. Even odds 8.5 under. Looks like the 8 leaning over. Yankees Baltimore. Game postponed. That's the Seattle game. But this is what you're looking for. It's a little bit better to find when we have a little bit more time to go through it, and I apologize. But you want to write down the games. You want to write down the odds. You want to write down the game totals. You want to focus on the higher game total games most of the time, and you want to focus on the odds to find your pitching. Okay? So if I go back into the research station, I'm going to scroll over here. I'm going to sort by K-score, and this is where I'm going to really quickly just fly through the player pool, and then I'm going to let you go. You've been with me long enough. You heard the contest selection diatribe enough. But you saw a couple of new contests that I would advise you to get yourselves into. 549, 509, 487. These are the pitchers I'm probably going to focus on. Syndergaard, maybe. Syndergaard's K-score is low because whoever his opponent is isn't striking out, because we know Syndergaard strikes out just fine. 24% is a pretty good number. Okay? So the opponent he's facing, Washington, is not striking out. So that lowers his overall strikeout potential on the day. If a high strikeout pitcher goes against a contact hitting team, then he doesn't, can he strike out 20? Sure. Is he less likely to today? Yes. Than if he faced, say, the San Diego Padres, who like to strike out like crazy. He's got a much better pathway to 15 to 20 strikeouts against San Diego than he does against Washington. That's why that K-score adjusts. So we're looking at Paxton, Strasburg, Rodriguez, generally speaking. And looking at price, we might want to focus, Oakland's running pretty well. These are not necessarily weak offenses. Baltimore's been fine lately. Mets have been okay. Oakland, it's going to be a little tough today. The New York Yankees had the bigger odds. Here's what I would do. I would run probably Paxton in a lot of what I do. I think that there's going to be an awful lot of love for Paxton. I think Strasburg will get a little bit. I would run some Eduardo Rodriguez. I don't know yet if I only had one lineup to build, which one I would pick. I might be picking something like Rodriguez and Yankees bats, something along those lines. And I think that's what a lot of people are probably going to do. They may pay up for pitching and still try to cram in Yankees bats, but if they really want Yankees bats or Washington bats or Boston bats, they're going to want these cheaper pitchers. And if they come down here against the worst pitchers, your Kansas City, New York Yankees. New York Yankees is in a good spot. Boston's in a good spot today. You can already tell by looking at it. I'll show you how to find that in a minute. But these are going to be the places the ownership should be going. People are a little scared of Boston right now, but should be where a lot of the ownership is going to go on a smaller slate, which means you might want to look into getting away from those guys and getting into some of these others. Like if Paxton's going to be the chalk pitcher, I would stack some Baltimore. I'd have Paxton in a few lineups with some other stuff, but I'd have at least one lineup that stacked Baltimore. I'd hedge. Against Strasburg, he's not going to be as chalky as Paxton. It probably comes down to Paxton or Rodriguez. And if Rodriguez is the chalk, I might have an Oakland lineup, especially the Oakland righties. That's a general game plan for today's slate. These others, you can pick on the trash pitchers all you want. We find that by going down here. Oops, we need to sort by ascending. Always get that part backwards. And we want to look at the bad category too. 19 and 20 is pretty bad. Brett Anderson, Alex Cobb, but we're also going to include Turnbull. He's got a lot of bad things going for him. He's got some good going for him. It means he has some upside, but for GPPs and whatnot. But he's got some bad going for him, indicating he can blow up. So he's top 3, Boston, New York, Kansas City. We might want some Kansas City stacks tonight, and they might be a little sneaky. Not a lot of people focus on Kansas City, but Kansas City might find themselves in a good spot. Comparatively, on a 14-game slate, Kansas City wouldn't probably be much of a factor. But on a 4-game slate, they definitely are. Whether or not people see that or not, I don't know. But I'm telling you, you might want to look into that. So when we scroll over to the Trends tab and we focus on Boston, New York, Kansas City, maybe Oakland. Boston, New York, Kansas City, maybe Oakland. I'm going to take the L7 WOBA here, this category right here. I'm going to sort by descending. And I'm going to start going team by team looking for guys hitting over 400. Boston. Because they're going up against Brett Anderson, who's a pitcher that we want to attack. We might not worry so much about the lefty-lefty stuff. We might focus on the green, the right-handed, or the switch hitters. You want to take some lefty-lefty, you're definitely going to be contrarian, especially being that Moreland is hitting okay and Devers is hitting, was hitting okay, got a couple of hits last night, whatever. If they erupt, they might be involved. Of course, you're going to rather focus on a JD Martinez. But versus left-handed pitching, this is to handedness. To left-handed pitching, they're hitting 433 wOBAs right now. Moreland and Martinez. Those would be the two guys I'd be focused on. Okay? I'd be watching these trends as they go and see if I can't figure out when Bogarts, Devers, Swihart had a hit, home run last night, but it was against a righty, I guess. Otherwise, this number would have jumped. Mookie Betts, some of these guys, I want to know when they're going to start heating up. So I will watch these trends. In 2 or 3 days, these numbers will grow. If these numbers grow, they're heating up, and we want to pay attention to them. Again, you can only find that stuff at dfsarmy.com. Kansas City. 561 Alberto Mondesi. This might be your core play of the day. Right there. Ryan O'Hearn. Who else is he going to surround? I don't know who else he would play with. You might want to look at BVP history if there is any. You might want to look at some pitch types, go to like a plate IQ or something and look at this guy primarily throws fastballs and sliders, and Ryan O'Hearn hits well against fastballs and sliders. That might be like, okay, so that's not the worst play. At least put some logic behind your play if you're going to do something like that. But I think we're going to want some Kansas City bats today, and it would all start with Mondesi. Who else did we say? See, I've already forgotten. I even said it twice so I'd remember. New York, Oakland. So if I look at New York, 529, and then it drops off under 400. So DJ LeMahieu, if he gets the start today, would be somebody I'd be focused on no matter where he bats in the order. And I'd be looking at pitch type for the rest of these Yankees. They're not hitting right-handers very well, apparently. Okay? But, I mean, any of these guys are in play. You know what the Yankees can do. I might avoid a Gardner, Torres, something like that. I might be focused more. Tulo, if he's not questionable today, Sanchez, Judge, Voit, these would probably be the guys I'd be looking for. And they're going to cost you. There's no doubt. Scroll back over this way. They're going to cost you on FanDuel and DraftKings both. LeMahieu might be a little bit of a value play there. Greg Bird, if he's in there, you might get lucky with him. But you're going to need to get lucky when he's only hitting a 332 wOBA. You're going to need to get lucky today and time it right. So today's looking like a little bit more of a crapshoot in our big bats. Boston, New York, Kansas City, Oakland. Now we're talking. This is what we want to see. So we got 3 bats to pick from here. Chapman, Davis, and Kana, if Kana gets the start. Maybe a little bit of Simeon mixed in because nobody takes Marcus Simeon ever, and he has a little bit of sneaky pop, and he's usually fairly cheap. Grossman, if he leads off, maybe not terrible, but he's not hitting for crap. I'd go look his OBP up because I'd at least want that. If his wOBA's low, his OBP is going to be relatively low, though. Pinder, Morales, Piscotty. We're going to, again, watch these numbers for these guys to start heating up. So that's your 4 main offenses. The other thing I can do is I can then turn this off, go back to the overall look at the league, and see. I would be checking Keon Broxton against Strasburg, see if he's got BVP because he's ripping the cover off the ball in the small sample size. Well, that's not a good pick because the sample size is really small. 18, Mondesi, we already saw that. DJ LeMahieu, we already saw that. Chapman, we already saw that. Trey Mancini in Baltimore. Down here with Ricard and VR. Hitting over 400 too. Contrarian stack. VR, Ricard, Mancini. Peter Alonso, if he gets the start against Strasburg. Young guy, advantage batter. Strasburg doesn't know how to pitch and doesn't know the holes in his swing yet. Alonso could have been looking at tape or talking to veterans about what Strasburg typically likes to do. He could already have a game plan in place. Strasburg doesn't really have a game plan yet for Alonso. Needs to see him a few times. Advantage batter. And a guy that's running a little bit hot and is relatively cheap, I'd be taking a shot on him for sure. Rendon, okay, against Syndergaard's going to be a little bit tougher, but as we've seen, these aces are getting off to rocky starts this year, so it's not a bad idea to stack against them. It's just a little bit more risky. Chris Davis, always double dong threat. McNeil, value. It's questionable, of course. Stevenson, JD Martinez, Mitch Moreland, Wilson Ramos, Kana, Ricard, VR. These are the guys, you could certainly pick a stack. Let's say you wanted to pick Boston. You run your 3-4 guys out there, and then you just one off the rest of it around the league. That can work. You can go, a couple of smaller stacks, 3 and 3, with, New York Yankees if you can afford it, and Oakland, and then or Kansas City where your value might be, and then turn around and come back and one off the rest of it. You would use this. You can target your teams by looking. Let's say Baltimore, we want to be contrarian today and go against Paxton. Then we're looking at Alberto if he gets the start, but we're looking at Mancini, Ricard, VR. And that's pretty much about it for that lineup unless we really see something else in BVP that we like. And then we can turn around and one off it, turn this back off, and one off it with the rest of the league. End up with a Mondesi, end up with a LeMahieu, end up with a Rendon Robles type, whatever. Okay, that's just how you're going to go through building lineups today. Got a couple of contests reserved. I'm going to go try and put together a player pick pool sheet for our VIPs at dfsarmy.com and release that as far as what my player pool is going to look like today. I'm going to look for some BVP specials that I released yesterday, and Jose Abreu had a pretty good day. Adam Frazier had a really good day. We called both those shots at very, very low ownership, so good for our VIPs and those of you that watched the video yesterday. Hopefully you're getting a kick out of these. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you want to learn a little bit of a concept and then get a player pool, this would be a good place to follow. We'll try and shorten the videos back up. They're getting back up towards 30 minutes. I'd rather keep them down around 15 to 20. But they are what they are when we have other things that we want to teach, like contest selection. So hopefully you pick the right contest for the types of lineups that you guys build, and we'll see you at the top of the winner's circle. Take care, guys.